So this session is recorded and the link will be shared in our website for those who wish to review the session or who want to share it with your colleague again or who missed to attend the session. The Q&A option will also be available to post your questions. You will be able to see a small chat box on your Zoom header. So you should be able to post your questions to the panelists during the session. The panelists will review the questions at the end of the session to answer them. And if you want to discuss, you can also use the raise hand button there so that in the Q&A session we can enable audio for you. But if we do not have time to cover all the questions, then we will consolidate all the questions and the responses and we will send it to all the participants through email. So you should have a copy of all the questions and responses as well for your reference. Yeah, so for those of you who are just joining us, welcome once again. And now let's get into the session. So the agenda was already mentioned in the invitation. However, I wanted to highlight that we chose this structure because we anticipated that half the audience who attend this session may not have a statistics background. So it will start with some of the basics and then get into the approaches in detail. For those of you who are already aware of these methodologies, I can see some of them are already statisticians and practicing them with many years of experience. So it is still a good refresher, especially when you're going to focus more time on missing data section of the protocol and SAP. So with that overview, let's get into the topic. First, let me cover some of the overview of missing data. Okay. There is a long history of debate among those involved in clinical trials about the appropriate way to deal with the problem of missing data. The debate stems from the fact that this is a problem that cannot have a definite solution. When data are missing, any analysis that purports to produce non-trivial conclusions must rest on assumption that cannot be wholly assessed from data at hand. So with that context, let me explain in a simple layman terms. Missing data is basically an assessment or an endpoint value that is considered missing if it was planned to be collected and considered useful for a specific estimate but ended up being unavailable for analysis. Okay, so if that kind of data which is planned for certain outcome and not available, then it affects the validity and the interpretation of the clinical trial results. So this is a serious concern, especially given the COVID times. So I mentioned the term estimates. Again, for those of you who are not aware of what estimate is, as described in ICH E9 R1, the estimate is precisely the defined treatment effect in the population corresponding to the clinical question of interest. It summarizes at a population level what outcomes would be in the same patients under different treatment conditions being compared. Okay, so it is the topic of interest for the population that we are running the clinical trial. And along with estimate, there is another term that we all need to be aware is called intercurrent events. These are events occurring after treatment initiation that affect either the interpretation or the existence of the measurements associated with clinical question of interest. Okay, missing data would occur either in presence or in absence of intercurrent events. So these definitions are important before we move further on the topic. Now let us look at some of the impact of COVID-19 on missing data. When we presented the last webinar, we mentioned about somewhere around 9,000 trials, ongoing trials, were impacted by COVID-19, out of which almost 4,500 trials were all phase 3, which is multi-site, multi-country clinical trials. Okay, so the COVID pandemic already has presented a variety of challenges for conducting an analysis of ongoing clinical trials, especially including a high rate of missing outcome data. With again, there is a new reasons or no reasons, because still the sponsors are figuring out how to resume some of the studies. So in such cases, the planned statistical analysis may need to be modified depending on the trial. The modifications in planned analysis may range from a relatively low impact to major in settings, because drug administration visits, patient visits are severely disrupted by the pandemic. And all planned modifications and additional analysis should be documented in the statistical analysis plan prior to any data unblinding, and also prior to working on the clinical study report. So the best approach in post-COVID situation, I don't know when we can call it as post-COVID, but the post-COVID situation depends on what is missing. And for pandemic-related missingness, we need to come up with an appropriate strategies to be identified in the context of each estimate and also the analysis method. Okay. Now, let us see some of the intercurrent events due to this pandemic. Broadly, we are categorizing it as missing endpoint measurement, assessment accessibility, and also the subject's infection or the participant's infection. The diagram on the right gives you its reference from CDISC concept map, where you can see the virus can impact two areas. One is at the study subject level, and another one, it could directly impact at the site level also. Okay. And with that impact at the endpoint measurement level, the assessment may be missing because participant might discontinue the study prematurely, and it may be missing due to missed study visits, or procedure while a participant remained in the study could have got delayed, or it would have gone out of visit window. And at some instances, due to COVID-19 related factors, the recorded data may not be properly verified. So that is also possible. From an assessment accessibility perspective, it could be the reason site is unavailable to perform certain study related assessments. Site procedure was available, but participant is not available. And from a subject infection perspective, again, the possibilities are numerous. The subject itself may become positive, COVID positive, and still alive, or the subject could be tested COVID positive and died due to COVID, or they are infected by COVID, but they don't know that they are infected, or they are being treated and hospitalized and admitted in intensive care. So the possibilities are numerous once again, but all of this could in turn lead to missing data in clinical trials. Here, let's take a scenario, because even though I explain it verbally, it's good to visualize it and see a data set. So here we are seeing a visit data set information with visit name, visit date, and the highlighted green highlighted variables are recommended by CDISC to have what is the reason for missing data and whether it is pandemic related or not, right? So you can see here the subjects visit for week 4, week 5, week 6 are missing, and it could be due to various reasons, and those visit dates are not captured anyway, and this needs to be captured in the data set, and this needs to be accounted as a missing data. So with that example, now let's go and check out some of the different types of missing data, and I can also explain you with some of the examples so you can relate it better, and we'll also look at some of the patterns. So in order to understand the different types of missing data, we need to first of all understand the missing data mechanisms. Okay. Again, like I said, it's a debate. There is no one size fits all solution. There's a lot of assumptions, but a relationship between a missing value and the unobserved outcome variable or to judge whether a missing data can be predicted from the observed data or not, it is not very easy to conclude on these assumptions. So based on this, we are categorizing it into three types of missing data. Those of you with statistics background are already aware of it, but again, I'm explaining this in the context of non-statisticians. So the three types of missing data are missing completely at random, missing at random, and missing not at random. Okay, so please bear with me. I will explain you as we progress the slides on what each of this means. So it is basically from a clinical trial perspective, it is categorized based on the relationship between the patient level data and the probability of missing outcomes. Data is mainly captured in order to generate outcomes, right? So both observed data and unobserved data due to missingness will help us try to define what type of data is missing. So if the missingness is unrelated to observed or unobserved data, then we call it as MCAR, or missing completely at random. If the missingness depends on observed data and not related to unobserved data, then it is called MAR. And if the missing is not random, and and there is already a pattern available for the missing data, then it is called missing not at random. So we'll go through all of this in detail with a quick example. So like I said, the probability of a particular value being missing is completely independent of both observed and unobserved data. So a variable is missing completely at random if neither the variable in the data set nor the unobserved value of the variable itself predict whether a value will be missing. Again, it's a very strong assumption, and sometimes it is relatively rare. And the chances of missing data is same for individuals in different treatment group and those who have differential disease severity or treatment response. Let's look at some examples so it might be helpful for you to understand. A site is unable to fulfill its obligations under the protocol. Okay, it could be a random site. There could be 20 sites, but one site is not able to fulfill its obligations. Site personnel may be called to treat infected patients in a hospital setting, or the PPE kits may be unavailable, and study subjects are prohibited from traveling, or the study subjects are hesitant to travel outside due to the risk of infection. So the missingness is not due to the treatment, but it is a public response to the pandemic, which is completely at random. Okay, it could be any reasons for that matter. So these are classified as missing completely at random. When it comes to missing at random, a variable is said to be missing at random if other variables, but not the variable itself, in the data set can be used to predict missingness on a given variable. So the probability of a particular value being missing depends only on the observed data. So without further confusion, I'll explain you the example. So if you look at the third line, daily data on physical exercise, elderly patients are less willing to perform exercise outside than younger patients during to pandemic situation. So it is a traceable based on the age factor. You will see the daily data is missing more for elderly patients compared to the younger patients. Then this is an MAR kind of a pattern. Some more examples. This is a very classical example used in trainings. So for patients who underwent traumatic brain injury, right, if we are assessing cognitive functions, they may also have orthopedic injuries. If they have a brain injury, they may also have some orthopedic injuries, right? So they are less likely to complete any design learning cognitive function test, not only because of the brain injury, but also it could be due to their restricted mobility. So here the missingness is systematic on one variable, presence of an orthopedic surgery, but not on the variable being measured. The measurement is on design learning test, but it is due to also due to the presence of orthopedic surgery. So this is called missing at random. I also have a visual example. So if you notice here again, going back to the same visits data set we used at the beginning of the slide, you can see here, we can observe the randomly visit value is missing. You know, visit 3 is missing for a subject, visit 5 is missing for a subject, visit 2 is missing for a subject, but the reason is same, subject refused due to the fear of pandemic. Okay, so this is a MAR kind of a situation. Now if this is MAR, then what is MNAR? So let's look at that. So finally, data are said to be missing not at random if the value of the unobserved variable itself predicts missingness. A classic, I'll give you another classic example of this from a generic survey, right? You know, there's a lot of income surveys being happening. Individuals with very high incomes are more likely to decline to answer any questions about their income than individuals with more moderate or lower incomes. Okay, so that's a very classic example. But if you look at it from the clinical trial or from the COVID perspective, after a series of visits with positive outcome, a patient drops out due to lack of efficacy. In this situation, analysis model on observed data, including relevant covariates, will show likely to continue. But you know, the patient may drop out, but it's unreasonable to expect the patient to come to ask them to continue to derive the benefit from the treatment. Okay, so this again, the value of unobserved responses depends on the information not available for analysis. So it is predicted with a bias by the model. Let's look at a simple example here again. When the data is missing because of a factor related to a primary analysis. So here it is related to the primary analysis. So elderly patients exercise less because they became weaker due to COVID infection. So there is directly related to the primary analysis. Hence it is called MNAR. So going back to the same visual example I used for the visits slide. Here if you see, everywhere visit 5 is consistently getting missed across patients. So it could be the week that the lockdown was announced and patients were not allowed to visit the sites. So then that is clearly MNAR. It's not a random missing data, but there is a reason why it was missing. So again, going back to our primary discussions, right? The categorization of MCAR, MAR or MNAR is very, very important unless we know what is the underlying assumption behind this type of missing data. It is difficult to come up with a strategy to handle this kind of missing data. So again, for the non-statisticians in the group, I thought of adding a funny example in case if you have still not understood MCAR, MAR, and MNAR. This is a adaptation from Schaffer and Graham model. You know, some of those who are aware of the statistics knows about the Schaffer and Graham model. So it's a funny adaptation done by Mr. Richard McElrath. He's an American professor for anthropology, and I was thinking how to make it more interesting, because you know, statistics always if you understand the concept, it is beautiful, but if you don't understand it, it kind of keeps you confusing. So let's use an example here with a little bit of humor. So you know, all of us have done homework, or we have kids at home doing homework. So H is considered as homework and H star is considered as homework with missing values. Okay, A is the attribute directly related to the primary analysis because student does the homework, right? So A is the variable, that's the direct attribute, and D is the dog that you have at home, which is not directly related to the attribute of the student or the homework, right? So dog eats any homework is called missing completely at random. Okay, so there is no correlation here. And dog eats a student's homework, you know, student is the primary variable, but you know, dog eats Dog does not relate to the homework, but dog eats students' homework is called missing at random. Now you are able to relate the example I gave with cognitive function and design learning task. You can refer that as the student and the homework, but the orthopedic surgery that I explained, which is restricting the design learning, is the dog here. Okay. And going back to the last one, missing not at random, is dog eats bad homework. So if the homework is bad, then the dog eats the homework. So with that, adaptation of Sheffer and Graham's model, I conclude my part of this webinar. So I hope you understood the types of missing data and different categories that we are using, and also the fundamentals of what is an estimand, what is an intercurrent event, and in general what missing value is. Okay. With that, I now hand over to Priya. Priya, over to you.
Thank you, Nitya. Let's see what would be the best approach in handling missing data due to this pandemic impact, which actually depends on what is missing. The best method for dealing with missing is to prevent it, which is quite not feasible at any time. So let's focus on some strategies to prevent missing data during the trial design, planning, conduct, and analysis stage. National Research Council has provided guidance for the trials to prevent missing data during the design conduct of this clinical trial, such as enhancing participant engagement as an effective approach to minimize missing data. During the design phase, it is recommended to predict the expected proportions of missing data according it in the sample size calculations. Utilize run-in periods to maximize adherence. Check for the feasibility of reducing number of direct visits, alternatively which we could plan for virtual data collection method. Next slide, please. So next is about the planning stage. We have to develop detailed study documentation on all aspects of the study considering existing scenario of this pandemic. Informed consent procedures to be clearly specified for those who discontinue study treatment and discontinuation of follow-up, so participants are clearly aware of their ability to complete the given study time frame. Opting study sites which had track records on successful completion of enrollment, processed and timely completion. Place trained study personnel to execute study activities more precisely. Pilot testing the protocol can identify possible sources of missing data. We also need to determine efficient method of communication for identifying and resolving unanticipated issues that arise during the study. Regular study team meetings or web-based discussion helps to identify and resolve potential missing data issues. Next slide, please. So getting into the conduct stage, regularizing monitoring reports to track amounts of missing data at site level and study personnel. Capturing reasons for withdrawal from the study helps to identify if it is due to COVID related or some other reasons. Study participant to be kept engaged in the study by incentives, visit reminders, phone calls, which helps to identify and intervene in participants that are likely to drop out at the early stage. Timely data entry allows early detection of problems with missing data. Next slide, please. So as we getting into this analytic stage, if we miss to account the missing data mechanism, then this will lead to erroneous conclusions. In the presence of missing data, it is important to understand how much is missing and in what patterns. For primary analysis, opt methods that make use of all available data, such as multiple imputation or likelihood-based approaches. Sensitive analysis are recommended to examine the robustness of conclusion based on missing mechanisms. Analytical approaches to be described and justified in statistical section of the protocol. And as well on the assumptions underlying any mathematical models need to be clearly explained. Next slide, please. So here, let's touch base the different approaches where hope everyone must be aware of all these methods like complete case analysis, single imputation, multiple imputation, and linear mixed models. So in upcoming slides, we are just going to touch base on what it is all about. Next slide, please. In complete case analysis, those participants with missing data will be excluded directly from the analysis. This approach is valid one and only if the data are missing completely at random, which have a reduced statistical power due to reduced sample size, but observed data will not be biased. This approach violates the intention to treat principle and is subject to bias. It is not recommended as a primary analysis in a confirmatory trial. However, this approach can be considered in exploratory studies during initial phases of drug development and confirmatory trials for sensitive analysis to illustrate the robustness of conclusions. Next slide, please. So with the single imputation method, we replace a missing data point by a single value, as the name says about. Analysis done as of all the data were observed. This approach is valid if data are missing at random. However, this is considered as potentially biased method due to unrealistic assumptions. Next slide, please. So now considering the well-known method LOCF, which is this last observation carried forward. So as we come across this method, this analysis imputes the last measured value of the endpoint to all subsequent scheduled but missing value evaluations. This approach would provide an unbiased estimate under restrictive assumptions. Next slide, please. So here, just to give outline of the data display after the LOCF approach. So as we see here, those green highlighted rows were imputed using LOCF approach. So if you see for the first subject 014, the visit 2 value was carried forward to the next visit 3 and so on. So this is just to highlight how the data shows. Next slide, please. Other approaches replaces the unobserved measurements by values derived from possible sources, such as information from same subject before withdrawal, from other subjects with similar baseline characteristics, a predicted value from empirically developed model. Next slide, please. So getting into this multiple imputation, this is a simulation-based statistical technique for handling missing data. 3 basic steps are imputation, estimation, and pooling. So next slide, we can see a little bit description about each step. So in the first step, multiple set of plausible values for missing observations are imputed, assuming the missing data process is missing at random. This process results in creation of several complete data sets. In second step, each of these data sets will be analyzed, assuming there have been no missing data. In last step, the results are combined into single multiple imputation result value, taking into account the uncertainty of the imputation process. This approach results in an unbiased estimates, improving validity, increasing precision, and for robustness. Next slide, please. Just to give a demonstration with an sample study of phase 2 randomized double-blind multi-center trial designed to evaluate the safety and efficacy of study drug compared to active drug in the treatment of diabetic macular edema. So here in this study, the primary objective is the change in BCVA score at week X. Missing scenario assumed here was missing at random. So we can consider multiple imputation method as one of the approach, replacing each missing value for this BCVA score with a set of 10 plausible possibilities. So we can implement this MI approach in SAS using PROC-MI procedure. Next slide, please. So as we seen in this example, 10 data sets will be summarized to one data set that includes a BCVA score average across all data sets for each point and each time point separately. The next step, on the summarized data, change from baseline of BCVA score will be calculated. Inferential model of primary endpoint, which as described in the SAP, will be used the multivariate exact logistic regression model. And as in the pooling step, the covariates into the imputation model were treatment group, baseline stratification variables, and BCVA measurements. So this slide is more about to give the steps on what would be the multiple imputation approach takes on. Next slide, please. In order to reach valid conclusion for those trials impacted by COVID, we have to wisely opt statistical method that maximize the use of available data. Some statistical approaches to handle missing data do not employ explicit imputation. For continuous analysis, linear mixed models are sometimes used to handle missingness at random when a series of outcomes are measured repeatedly over time. For categorical responses and bound data, generalized estimating equations and generalized linear mixed models are applicable under MCR and MAR assumptions. Next slide, please. So this slide will give the summary of what we have discussed in the last 15 slides. In the presence of missing data, it is important to understand how much is missing and in what patterns. Let's see some of the patterns of missing data during this COVID. As we've seen in the earlier slides, the possible impact due to COVID could be site-related, subject-related, or both. Under site-related factors, data could be missing due to site closure, unavailability of site staff, drug supply interruption, and so on. Subject-related dropout based on recorded side effect, and then dropout based on baseline characteristics. Subject died due to COVID-19. Apart from that, there could be dropout based on unobserved response, subjects under COVID-19 infection. So these factors could fall under missing scenario, either at MCAR, MAR, or MNAR. Accordingly, we could opt imputation method, say multiple imputation method, or complete case analysis for those assumed under MCAR, likelihood method for those assumed under MAR, and pattern mixture model for MNAR. Next slide, please. So the topic of missing data would be incomplete if you do not touch the sensitive analysis. In general, sensitive analysis can be defined as a set of analysis where the missing data are handled in a different way as compared to the primary analysis. Whichever analysis method is chosen, a sensitive analysis should be conducted for the method of handling missing values, especially if the number of missing values is substantial. Additional sensitive analysis will be required to assess the impact of pandemic-related disruptions on the trial. For non-pandemic related events and missing data, original planned sensitive analysis could be followed as usual. However, those pre-planned sensitive analysis should not be applied to both pandemic and non-pandemic events due to different strategies for pandemic related and unrelated events. And sensitive analysis to missing data could become excessively conservative if amount of pandemic related missing data is large. Next slide, please. So coming to this end of this session, as a closing remarks, would like to summarize, COVID-19 has a potential to impact on ongoing and upcoming clinical trials worldwide by increasing rates of missing data as well as higher study dropout rates. To overcome such challenge and appropriate statistical methods mitigate the impact of such incomplete data. As when we opt for imputation, those methods may result in biased estimates and lead to incorrect conclusions, like how the single value imputation artificially increases precision, whereas multiple imputation simulates the variability. So it is preferable to opt a method that does not require imputation like MMRM GE models. However, if complete data method is chosen for analysis, it is critical to choose an imputation method that can minimize the bias. Sensitive analysis can be conducted to determine the impact of missing data on trial results. Next slide. So here are some of the references we use to build this content. Thank you all for listening. Over to Nitya.
Thank you, Priya. That was wonderful. So we still have about 20 minutes time for the session. So if there are any questions from the audience, we would be happy to take them and respond. So you can use the Q&A button in your Zoom to send questions to the panelists. Okay, we'll give it a few minutes for the attendees to send in their questions. So Priya, the first question is, how do we determine the assumption for MCR, MAR or MNAR is correct?
Actually, this depends on the scenario, on what cases it has existed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if we go case by case, that would be helpful. So whoever has this question, if they can drop email on it, we can check on what perspective the data is being collected. So from there, we can give that precise answer.
Okay. And the other question is, what is the reason to handle pandemic and non-pandemic missing data separately?
So here, as we seen in this presentation, so when we, I mean, any study documentation, when the SAP has been started, there might be some assumptions for the data. So the main reason why it is not considered for non-pandemic is this. This COVID especially is known to everyone, and we know what would be the major reason for the missing data. So the when we have the SAP content for the missing data, so those content was based on unknown missing data. But when we come to know, like, because of pandemic, we are going to face some missing data, it is better to describe it separately. So then it helps to have the precise value.
Okay. So I think I can also add to your response. So I think the context was mentioned for ongoing clinical trials. So this question has been raised by Rajesh. So the context, the topic here is, if it's a new study that we are starting now, then it will probably be one missing data section. But if there is an already ongoing clinical trial where the SAP was developed and approved some time back, they may not have considered provisions for this much amount of missing data, right? They would have accounted for certain amount of dropout, but nobody would have imagined the kind of impact what we have seen in the last few months. So there are some sections in protocols that talks about reporting pregnancies. So we are now strongly recommending to add a section in protocols and SAPs about reporting COVID related situation as well. So that is also now being treated as a separate condition. So again, it depends on the study, depends on the endpoints. So we could definitely put them together. But the context that Priya mentioned was, if there was an ongoing study which requires an amendment and the amount of missing data is considerably large, then how do you handle that? So that was the context. Now there's another question about why it is to opt to use a non-imputation method and use an MMRM model when it coming to considering missing data.
It's all about to reduce the biased estimates. As we know, like the imputation, none of the imputation methods are, are 100% perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that would be the one. The main reason is like to reduce the biased estimation.
Mm-hmm.
It leads to incorrect conclusions.
Right.
That would be the one.
So Priya, is it safe to say then, we could also apply imputation methods and linear mixed models and run sensitivity analysis on both to see?
Yeah.
Would that be a better approach?
Yeah. Sensitive analysis is always one to be applied whenever the missing data is being there in the study.
Okay.
That would give us a better visibility of our assumptions, whether it holds true or not.
Okay. And within the existing imputation methods, which one would you recommend as the most commonly used methods in statistical analysis plans?
So it's again about we have to go by case because as we have seen the different types, like whether it is missing at random or not at random or completely at random.
Mm-hmm.
And so on that, we have to go either with single imputation or with multiple imputation or neither with a complete case analysis. So there is no one correct answer for any of these types. So it is always best to visit for what has been missing in the data and then the approach to it. So as we know, like LOCF is one of the most widely, wherever we get into the study, we always see this LOCF, but ideally that is not the perfect method.
Right.
Then with the practice, it has come into it. So each method has their own advantage and disadvantage.
Okay. Wonderful. There's one more question that came up, or maybe I did not scroll, from Ilaria Speranza. For ongoing trial started when there was no pandemic, is it needed to amend the SAP to explain methods to handle missing data due to pandemic? Do we need to do a SAP amendment?
Sorry, please repeat it.
For ongoing clinical trials, which were started when there was no pandemic,
okay,
do we need to do an amendment to SAP to explain methods to handling missing data?
Yeah, I think, say, it depends upon the study at what stage it is. If it is in between with the core visits, like if it is between the treatment visit periods, then obviously we would see more missingness because of this pandemic. So based on, I would say it all depends on which visit the study is in now. Though it has started initially, but if the study is at the end stage, then I would say it is less likely to get this amended. But if it is during the treatment phase, and this pandemic occurs, then we have to get it done as well.
Mhm.
Better unbiased estimates.
Okay. So I can also share an example on a project that we recently worked on. So this was a scenario where the protocol and SAP were prepared before the pandemic, but the trial was put on hold, seeing the conditions of the site closures and all of that. And the sponsor is now considering to start the protocol. Okay. So this is a scenario, perfect scenario where the study was supposed to start. They put it on hold, or probably they had few sites initiated, but then they put it on hold and they did not do any recruitment, and now they are planning to start again. So when we reviewed, Priya and I reviewed the protocol and SAP, we found there are several areas where it required amendment. For example, even the inclusion exclusion criteria, it starts right from there. And also having a provision about reporting COVID. If there is a provision about reporting pregnancies and there is an impact on the study drug with the pregnancies, there was an elaborate section that talks about that. So again, I would defer it back to the therapeutic area, the nature of the clinical trial, and the stage at which the trial is. But it is not just for missing data, but also there could be other areas which will require amendment. And during the course, what we will have to do is look at what all the existing missing data methods that we have already factored in. Okay. And if we are anticipating more, then probably even the sample size, right from the sample size, everything will require a rework. So in that case, yes, we would recommend an amendment to the SAP. But again, this is in conjunction with what the sponsor wants also, because end of the day, they will have to make the decision, and they will have to make provisions for all of these reasons in their CSR report. I hope that answered to your question. Okay, let us see if there are any other questions coming up. Okay, so the other question is, do we need to add strategies for half completed trials in SAP? If yes, then after applying such techniques, if the trial is going to fail because of imputation, then what could be done?
I think this is more general.
Okay.
Usually the SAP is written, as with the recruitment starts and before the DBL gets completed. So irrespective of whether the trials completes or not, whenever the SAP has been started, we are going to make the content based on the protocol. Mm-hmm. And in case, as this was assumed, like if it was applied and if the trial is going to fail because of imputation, then what could be done? I don't think so. I mean, the trial is going to be, is going to fail just because of the imputation approach. Mm-hmm. Because it's one of the supportive, conclusion for the endpoints, whichever we are going to analyze it. So as you see, like there is a sensitive analysis to be done. In case if the imputation method goes wrong, the sensitive analysis gives you the robustness of the assumptions, and also the exploratory analysis could also be done in such case. Mm-hmm. So, that would be the one, because it's not just the trial is going to fail just because with this method.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just imputation method. And the question is from Swapnil. So there again, what I would add to what Priya said is, sponsors have clearly, at least the big sponsors that I know, have clearly defined strategies on whether to stop a clinical trial, pause a clinical trial, or continue to run a clinical trial. I'm giving a 3 variation, red, amber, green kind of a philosophy. There are even 5 variations. Okay. Depending on the creativity of the statisticians there, they come up with multiple categories of how to proceed with their clinical trials. So, and when they take a decision, they already assume the risk that are involved in that decision, and they already have to factor those risks involved. And if they still want to continue pursuing the clinical trial, then that is a calculated or a predefined risk that they have taken to continue the trial. Okay. So again, we have 5 more minutes and two more questions. Again, this is a good question from Pritish. Um, he mentions about clinical implication of missing data imputation. During the pandemic, subject may have taken contraindicated conmeds, say a retroviral drug. This could be a contraindication conmed. How will the missing data imputation that can be reconciled with the clinical outcomes? It's a very good question. Priya, any thoughts on this?
I think it's more about the CONMED. So as it has been rightly mentioned, since it's a it comes under the CONMED, this will be treated under the CONMED and will proceed with as usual. But however, again, considering this pandemic situation and the impact on the ongoing trials, I mean, if it is going to be in the new trial, I mean, this patient would be really excluded from the study itself.
Right.
And also, if the patient has been impacted, I mean, if someone is with COVID-19 positive, I don't think he's going to continue in the study.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think he will be under the, I mean, either with the treatment discontinuation or considering the severity of the COVID.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, so one option probably is if they are COVID-19 infected and they are taking contraindicated medicines which are part of exclusion criteria, then it's again a sponsor's decision also to discontinue the subject, and also we have seen scenarios where we recommend adding COVID-19 infection as one of the reasons for discontinuation. Okay. So that is one possibility we have seen, but this is again a good question. I would say we will review it internally also and get back to you with a detailed answer. And I'll just take the last question and we'll end the session. How to identify pandemic missing data for ongoing studies where there is no specific data point or question on ECRF? I think it's considerably easy to amend SAP, but what about the ECRFs?
So it's going to be the same, like how we are going to amend the SAP. For this pandemic related studies, even for the CRF, I mean, it is ideal. We need to capture the data for the, I mean, for each and every endpoints. Is going to be, the column whether it has an impact due to COVID or not.
Yeah. So Priya, I'll take this. So one of the things we have seen is a surge on change orders for data management groups. There has been a considerable number of updates done for the ECRFs. And also in one of the slides, I mentioned about the CDISC concept map. You can also refer to the CDISC COVID guideline. They have clearly given additional new variables that needs to be captured at the different data sets at the SDTM level. So it will be good because most of the CRFs will probably have other or comments kind of a column where this is being currently documented. It is not a categorical, it is a very textual response. So it's difficult to reconcile and it requires a lot of manual work. So ideally, it will be good to add a flag variable in ECRF, whether it is COVID related or not, or include certain drop downs, for example, in discontinuation reasons and things like that. That way, the data point can be captured more appropriately. Again, going back to what Priya said, it depends on the life stage of the clinical trial. Are you halfway through, or are you started and put it on hold, or or do you want to continue the trial for a few more years from now? So the factors will determine whether they will need to make an amendment or not. And the factors also, I would say, it depends on the study phase. If it is a phase 1 study, it's relatively easy and it's a small duration and it's a restricted number of sites. It also depends on the therapeutic area. If it's a life-threatening disease, then they may want to continue the trial. If it's a lifestyle disease, they may want to put it on hold or do it at a later stage. So those factors also have to be taken into account, not just missing data when we are making amendments for the ECRF protocol and SAP. Thank you, everyone. This was a wonderful audience, and I hope you enjoyed the session. It is a really technical topic, but we have tried to cover it as much as possible. So even folks from other departments like clinical operations and data management and other groups can understand the concept. Whoever has attended the session, you will receive an email with the link for the recording, and also we will try to summarize the Q&A and send it as a consolidated response. And in case if your colleagues have missed to attend this webinar, and if you find it useful, please do mention to them, and please do pass on the recorded links. And we are right on time. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks so much. Thank you, Priya, for all your efforts.
Thank you, Nitya. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.